welcome to the podcast series Talking Success, Connecting the Global FinTech Community. I'm Stacey Jafta, and today I'll be talking to Anino Emuwa, founder of Avandis Consulting. Avandis Consulting is a France-based company with an office in Lagos, working with entrepreneurs and business leaders to provide wide-ranging, individualized solutions for complex strategy and financing needs. Hi, Anino. Thanks for joining me on this podcast. How are you doing?
Hi, Stacey. Thank you very much for having me on. Well, these are unusual times, aren't they? The world is concerned about global health. We've had to readjust the way in which we work. I am sitting in France here working from home. We have been in lockdown now for over 10 days. Our office in Lagos has been shut to allow our staff to be at home. We obviously do not want to endanger our staff or clients. And these really are unusual times, but we also find ourselves trying to support our clients as well, because they're going through tough times. We work with entrepreneurs and business leaders, and it's really quite difficult right now for everybody.
What has been the biggest impact, you'd say, on your day-to-day life and then also within your business?
Well, interestingly enough, we actually do quite a lot of work at distance, digitally. But we've had, for example, we had a CEO event which was planned for next month. And that, obviously is cancelled. But I also have a lot of speaking engagements at conferences, and those have all been cancelled. So I should have been attending the Association of MBA conference, which was going to be in Budapest. That has been cancelled.
Oh, wow.
I was to be running a workshop for enterprise women at the University of Cambridge. That has also been cancelled. We also, I had also planned to be in Boston with the Cartier Women's Initiatives for the event for the finalists who have been selected after a global program, and we have been mentoring these finalists. And so the competition was supposed to hold in a few weeks' time, and that has been cancelled. So a lot of international travel, of course, being cancelled, our own events as well. So we are actually supporting our clients digitally. But interestingly enough, there are 3 or 4 things which I have actually run by a video conference, which were not necessarily related to the crisis. For example, I have clients internationally, the women business leaders I work with, and we actually run strategy sessions at distance. So I've run 3 of those the last 3 Saturdays, one-on-one. I have also run the AGM actually of Avandis Consulting in Lagos. We did that on Monday with the lawyers and with directors, and also an AGM I'm sorry, not an AGM, and also a global advisory committee which I'm on, which is for digital and sustainable financial services, which is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But we have members of the committee who are in different parts of the world. And so we actually run the committee meetings by video conference. So quite, a bit of our work anyway is run at distance, but of course, yes.
Did the format change because of the pandemic, or was it always meant to be virtual?
Actually, for the digital and financial services, that was actually always meant to be digital by video conference, because we have directors or members of the committee rather, who live in different parts of the world. My AGM would have been physical, but we converted that to online. And my consultancy with clients, we do that if clients are busy, they're away, and we do that strategy sessions. We run that by video conference, and that works very well.
And that conference, was that part of something that Avandis Consulting was doing, or is this separate?
Separate. Separate actually. The committee I'm a member of, so I'm a member of the advisory committee. In terms of my clients, of course, those are Avandis Consulting's clients who work with them separately, and then the AGM was the annual general meeting of Avandis Consulting in Nigeria.
Nice. Can you tell me a little bit about that journey to building Avandis Consulting? And have you always wanted to build your own company? Has that always been in the cards since you were this little girl?
Actually, it was an interesting journey. I was interested in banking and finance for whatever reason, from my teenage years. I just was fascinated about how finance, was this hidden resource which you couldn't see, but which drove businesses, which powered businesses. And so I studied economics in the UK at the London School of Economics with a view to becoming an investment banker. And I went back to my home country in Nigeria, and I worked with Citibank as a corporate banker. And here I was, trained to be a credit analyst, and would look at the financials of the companies who wanted lines of credit, and approve them. But these were big corporate names, so we're talking about billions of dollars of lines of credit. And here I was, age 23, writing these credits. And in return, these big accounts would generate each one millions of dollars of account profitability to the bank. But at the same time, I had studied economics, and here I was back in Africa, and you had these big businesses, and yet I could see gaps in the market in terms of entrepreneurial opportunities that weren't being filled, and the need.
And this is at the age of 23?
Exactly. So
wow, incredible.
so I was actually interested. I love my job. It was what I wanted to do, but I was interested in these entrepreneurial gaps. So I had actually planned, even though I had a busy job, to start off a small business on the side. And I had actually done all the research, look for shop space and all of that. But as all good bankers, do, after a few years, I went off to do my MBA, and this was at Cranfield in the UK. So I came back to the UK for a year to continue my studies. And during the course of the year, I actually started taking some courses and some modules in small business and entrepreneurship. And I interviewed some entrepreneurs over in the UK. I also got to understand the concept of entrepreneurship and the theory behind it and the academic side of it. So there was a practical side, and then there was also the academic side.
And where did that interest come from?
I cannot tell you where it came from. I just, for some reason, just had this sort of interest in, I enjoyed actually, seeing and noticing that there's a gap and filling that gap. It was actually like a solution.
I love that.
It was a solution, really. But then when I did finish, I came back, working back in the bank. By this time, I was a branch manager in the oil producing region in Nigeria, and so now I was dealing with even bigger companies. These were oil companies, but I could still see where all those gaps were. And anyway, to cut a long story short, I lived in 3 or 4 different African countries, and I was working now as an independent consultant. And I had traveled in several countries with my family, but I could see how smaller businesses were having difficulty in raising finance. And if you remember, as I said, I had worked in the corporate bank, helping big businesses to raise funding and looking at the risks. But when it came to smaller businesses, they seemed to be locked out of the market. And so I would work with them, from the beginning, telling them how to, or helping them, how to structure their finances, how to run their financial management, and then, helping them with loan requests. And, and in this way, on several occasions, we were able to raise funding where previously, the answer was no for different reasons. But then I also found that it wasn't just a question of access to finance, that on the part of the entrepreneurs as well, they also needed some management development skills. The sort of things as corporate banker, we had done, we had gone off for an MBA and learned all these things about managing big businesses. But there was an MBA at the time for smaller businesses. So I started, running a program for women entrepreneurs, helping them with their management development skills. And that's how really my journey started. But then I felt that, with an economics background, with interest in macroeconomics and economic development, I felt that a one-on-one approach wasn't enough. And it was at this stage I then decided that I needed to understand this at a bigger level. And I then applied to do a doctorate, and I did doctoral research on financing and funding for smaller businesses. And that's what led to my setting up my business in consulting, working with entrepreneurs, and now with the business leaders.
That's incredible. So it sounds like you just really had a hunger for problem solving and coming up with those solutions. I also know that you have been in the industry for quite some time and you've been
Yes.
through numerous crises and downturns. I would love to hear a little bit about how you've overcome them, especially since going through COVID-19 and seeing so many businesses either not make it in these early stages. What advice do you have for those going through this tough time, whether they business owners working for corporate companies or startups? This is a challenging situation, so I would love to hear how you've overcome them.
Yes, and these really are tough times for absolutely everybody. I'll just go back a little bit, to 3 years ago in the case of Nigeria, where I ran a seminar for women business owners because, I mean, with an economics background, we could see the recession coming. I could see the recession coming, and I knew that this was likely to have a disproportionate effect on smaller businesses. And so I ran the seminar on how to manage in a recession, which ended up being an extremely popular session because smaller businesses very often tend to be reactive. But the purpose of this was not to be reactive, but it was how to be proactive. You know, the signs are there. What can you do? And I know one particular business. She found herself a business owner. She found her business in the last 3 years has grown phenomenally because she was able to address the issue straight on. We had our consulting, and she put into place several things. So in the midst of a recession, she actually found herself growing. Now, that is obviously not the case for every business. We
Yeah.
can, I mean, we can see the stock market, but of course, remember the stock market as well reflects what's happening to bigger businesses. But smaller businesses tend to suffer more because they don't have the resources that bigger businesses have. But the thing is, the number one thing I think is resilience.
Yeah.
Resilience is what carries one through. And whilst we hope and pray that there's light at the end of the tunnel, the first thing is to develop resilience and to look at what is happening as try to put some kind of structure into what you're doing. So rather than waiting for the storm, which is approaching to reach you, is what are you putting in plan, and is reassessing the whole of your business. Obviously, not every business can become digital. If you're producing food, for example, you can't be
Hmm.
digital. Physical products and services. If you haven't established an e-commerce platform, for example, you can't sell online. And in any case, people are less interested in buying some of that. But it also gives you time to look at your business. First of all, the first thing I think for businesses is cash flow, to really reassess your cash flow and see how you can manage it through the crisis. That's the first thing for smaller businesses. For if you're working in organizations, as business leaders, really they're doing the same thing but at a larger scale. But if you're a middle level, you're working within an organization, then the question is, how is this going to affect me? The first thing is, of course, health and safety is number one. So you have to make
Yeah.
sure that happens. We already have see people who are losing jobs, sadly. But if you're in that position, it may not be the easiest time to look for another job, but it's a time to start engaging with your network and seeing how can you add value even though you're the one suffering, but by adding value to people in your network, they hopefully will remember you as times get better.
Could you give an example of how to do that? Going on LinkedIn, would you maybe go post a question, engage with people that way, comment on people's posts? What advice would you give there?
Yes, you could do that, but I'd even start with, look at your network, people who you know already. Okay, people perhaps who you haven't been in touch with, for some time, but who are active in the industry or people who and send them a message. How are you? How are you coping? Can we help you? I personally have done that, and I've gotten good response. By just finding out how people are and engaging with them. In a way in which you can help them. Okay, so you can start first. I think with people who you know we'd be surprised that we have a lot of members or people in our contact list, but when you're busy, you're only in touch with a few. Think a little bit creatively. Look at your contact list, your first level connections, and see those who you can connect with. Also, don't shy away from asking advice. From people. Yes, we're all suffering, but people will be quite helpful sometimes, if you ask for little bits of advice, what can I do in this situation?
Yeah, I've seen posts on LinkedIn. People are offering their advice to all followers, saying, I'll give you a call. I usually charge this amount. Even if I don't know you, I wanted to see you succeed. To see the community coming together at a time like this is really incredible.
You are absolutely right, Stacey, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's a community, So whilst we might be, or you might be suffering, you should look at it as something that is affecting all of us, everybody. So some people will help you. You will also help other people. So, for example, at Avandis, what I'm doing, is that we're running various virtual sessions, panel sessions, and working with organizations in running free sessions. So, for example, events which would have been paying events, for the organizations are free of charge. We're running them virtually to support businesses and entrepreneurs in the time of need. I, for example, on a couple of platforms that have quite a large number of people, I have run a couple of polls to see what kinds of issues that people are facing, and just sending them a message and sending them the note, and then using the data in order to create workshops, virtual workshops and events. Even in certain instances, I have actually offered for people I'm working with, one-on-one phone calls, for example, or video sessions. But also, I have been the recipient. I've been the recipient as well of a consultancy. Soon after we finish, I also have a top business consultant who has offered me half an hour of his time as well. And I'd say engage on groups. I think this is the time to engage on groups. A lot of them are starting and looking at, the crisis, or looking at how they can, help themselves. One of the groups, I'm involved in, for example, which is a women's group. And, we're talking about, of course, everybody's concerned about themselves, their health, etc. And, we said, what about the people who work for you, people in your community? And within, I'm sure not more than a couple of hours, we had ideas about how we could help communities ourselves, etc. And one of the ladies took all of this and created, a social media flyer which we have shared, and people have come back asking, "Oh my goodness, who did this? This is so helpful." So sometimes
That's
when you think
awesome.
about other people, so there are many ways. Engagement, I think, is key. Engagement with a view to helping others, and in response, you'll find people who will offer to help you as well.
Thank you, thank you. I think that is really, really helpful along this journey, and I hope that helps a couple people who are currently struggling. I know this is a tough time, and I know that I want to do what I can to help, and I know that you feel the same way. And you also mentioned being part of a women group, and I know this is something that you have a lot of passion with women in the fintech space, and
Yes.
you hold. A lot of passion about why women should be trusted within the fintech community. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Firstly, I'm a goodwill ambassador for the European Women in Payments Network, which also includes women in fintech, and also founding director of the African Women in the fintech network in Nigeria. And the reason why is, for me, remember that I'm very much involved in entrepreneurship and in finance, and fintech is really certainly the future of finance in many ways. But because of technology, women are still the minority in terms of technology, and yet we're creating a growing sector which is going to um, especially in Africa, it's going to fill out the needs that we have. It is addressing financial inclusion in many ways, and financial inclusion in Africa also means we're looking at poverty reduction. We're looking at services for women, for example, and to see an industry being created where we might not have as many women in it is actually a matter of concern in very many ways. One, because we want women to be included in all sectors. Two, because diversity is shown to be beneficial in many ways. There was a study which was run by, I think it was Barclays Bank, a year or two ago, when they assessed, fintech companies in the UK, and actually found that the most highly performing firms were actually run by women founders, which is not to say that women founders alone, but the point is that there is benefit in terms of diversity in the fintech space. But at the same time, my concern personally is that the word tech for many years now, and probably a couple of decades, is actually an obstacle to women because women see tech as something that is male dominated.
Interesting.
Yes, and therefore we need to be particularly careful, and we actually have to do what we can to make sure that women are included. The fintech space, I'm not, I don't come into it from a technology background. I come into it from a business background and a finance background. But there's a finance part of it, and fintech is a space that requires people from all backgrounds. So whether it's legal, whether it's in business or marketing, for technology, in design, and therefore there's room for people who have talent from different places. And in fact, when you then look at how products are being created in these days, it's not just the tech people. You actually have people from design, and women very often, can contribute to design as well. So a team will also have a designer as well as, people who are computer engineers, etc. So we can be involved. Women can be involved at all levels, in technology as well as in the non-tech areas. And with upskilling and reskilling, there are things that skills that women and men can acquire to allow them to enter into that space. So it's also showing women that there are certain opportunities, and it shouldn't be seen as male dominated. It should be seen as a space that women can also thrive in. So what we do with the networks as well is to help the industry also be an industry where women and men can thrive in.
So you mentioned that the word tech has this connotation. Do you think that it should be maybe rebranded, or maybe the word itself just be changed within the financial technology sector?
If truth be told, if I had been asked my opinion, for example, several years ago, I would have absolutely said yes. I think it's probably difficult at this stage to rebrand. So in terms of changing names, but nothing is impossible. But I think also it's the way in which it is communicated. So I think there's a role in how it's communicated, the narrative about fintech, and believe me, it's not just women. People outside fintech look at it as just simply technology. And don't look at it as it also being technology enabled as well. So yes, there is a lot of technology. Technology is a platform, but technology is not the only part of it. Technology is just one part of it as well.
And Avandis Consulting is that mainly focused on encouraging women and supporting women, or is that just a department of Avandis Consulting?
You're right. It's a department. So we have Avandis for Women events, But it's interesting because sometimes because we do promote a lot of the work we do for women for the simple reason of inclusivity. But it's actually quite amusing because sometimes I get comments on social media, and people say, oh, but what you've said is also is also good for men, or don't you work with men as well? But it's funny because my clients, several of whom many male clients, and men I mentor, and I'm involved in their businesses, and they actually find it quite amusing, and they actually read my articles, they comment on it happily, and it doesn't bother them at all, because they do understand, that we're trying to encourage women. So I work with with everybody really, but we do have special services for women that we are, we promote quite actively.
And I know that you have held a couple conferences focused on women owners. And what have you found during those conferences have been their biggest challenges they have faced, and what advice were they really yearning for?
Well, one thing that I do find, which is why I come from a research background as well, or I do have a research background, and so I make sure that I don't assume that we actually do surveys or use data from elsewhere. And it's interesting because I think it's very much contextual, and it does change. So whilst you have some issues which are always there, for example, financing for female founders. We know the figures. Women women only attract about less than 3% of global venture capital. So there's a huge problem in that area. So access to finance is certainly one issue, which is improving. It's improving, but there's a long way to go. But we find that the issues tend to be contextual. It depends on what's happening. At the moment, it also depends on geographically on where you are. And then we tend to address those comments. But what we also find, and which is interesting, where we had started off by offering particular management development programs for women entrepreneurs, to actually find that the benefit wasn't just that; it was also the networking. And I think, in fact, I have an article which was published in Forbes and Entrepreneur about the benefits of networking for women entrepreneurs. So women can find that they actually come out with solutions working with peers. So the peer network is very important. The opportunities of interaction and collaboration, working with a community of peers, we found that has been phenomenal, really. So there are lots of benefits, yes, but I think that I wouldn't say there's one issue for women. The issues change. Finance is certainly a key one, and access to resources are also another one.
Wow. And do you yourself come up and help them with solutions, or is the conference that you have, or workshops that you have to help women come together and come up with those solutions as a team?
Oh, we absolutely, look at, they're very practical. So we're looking at solutions. The women, we expect them to leave with certain tools that they can use and they can deploy. And we've seen excellent results from that. We get feedback from them. The events we have, for example, it tends to be a one-day event. We tend to have speakers who come in from the outside, guest speakers. The last one we had was on social media marketing, and we had two well-known. This was in Lagos. Two well-known social media experts with who had platforms of up to tens to hundreds of thousands of people followers, and so they knew what they were talking about when it comes to digital marketing. And so these were very practical sessions that we hold. And in addition to that, I think that's why the women do like the sessions. Is that in addition to that, of course, is working with other women. We found lots of collaboration and people sitting on other people's boards or advisory committees as a result of the networking. So it is both, but we absolutely expect to have sort of solid outcomes from these events, from the sessions, and also women working together, because they are interactive. So there's a lot of time for interaction during the sessions.
What advice do you have for women wanting to enter the fintech space? Those that may be a little intimidated by the tech aspect or don't even know where to start.
First of all, I think the thing is, because of the interest, the industry is realizing that it's important to have women, because you want talent from everywhere. I think the first thing that I would advise is to find a network. And many of the networks, they're totally free. I think I mentioned the EWPN, which is the European Women in Payments Network, which includes FinTech. In Africa, we have the African Women in FinTech Network. So I think that it's important to look at these websites. There are other ones, undoubtedly, and see what's happening there. You can join them digitally and online, and you begin to understand, what the various parts of fintech, fintech are. Conferences, there are podcasts, there are a lot of resources, online, just to understand the industry. But I think the important way to look at fintech is it's basically, solutions basically for solutions in finance. Really, that's what they are, modern solutions in finance. So I think which are not necessarily traditionally based in banks. And I think from that perspective, women could find themselves more interested, and especially given that a lot of the solutions now are actually trying to incorporate women's needs as well. All I wanted to say is that be part of it, be part of the industry that is trying to create solutions for ourselves, and be part of the design, be part of the delivery, be part of it. And it's exciting. It's really exciting.
I couldn't agree more. Is there anything else you would like to add on to the listeners out there, like a last message you would like to give?
I think the last message, it's just very general, these are difficult times, but, one, respect, all the hygiene guidelines, the government advisory, working from home if you're not in the essential services. But, try to find out how you can keep yourself, yourself going and positive. At the end of the day, there's light at the end of the tunnel. The nightmare will end, and, if you do have somebody in your family that is affected or yourself, I'm wishing you, quick recovery. And let's try and stay positive and, help out other people who are suffering. Try and help members of your community as well.
Well, thank you so much, Anino, and thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. Where can those find you on social media, or where's the best place for them to reach you?
Oh, please reach me first and foremost on LinkedIn. My name, Anino Emuwa, Dr. Anino Emuwa. I'm on there. I'm also on Instagram at Dr. Emuwa. I'm on Twitter at Dr. Emuwa.
Well, thank you again, Anino. I really do appreciate this, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Stacey. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to Talking Success, connecting the global fintech community. Feel free to follow us on Instagram at Talent in the Cloud. And if you're interested in exec talent, or you yourself are looking for a new exciting change in your career, check out our website, talentinthecloud.io.